Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today, oh my gosh, Captain Marvel is doing so well, everybody. It's breaking box office records. It's going to be the biggest film ever. Like, oh my gosh, it could outpace, oh my goodness, can you believe this? It could outpace Avengers Infinity War, and that means that pre-sales equal box office success, and therefore it's going to be the biggest film ever, which is just not the case. Anyway, guys, welcome back to the channel. Sorry I had to get that out there, but oh my god, Captain Marvel pre-sale tickets soar, signaling big box office debut for female-led superhero film. If only that is how it worked. Yes, pre-sale tickets are a good indicator of opening weekend, but that is not the whole story. Remember that when you take into account how much a film makes over its entire run, the most important part is not just opening weekend, but the first 2 weekends, because that drop from week 1 to week 2 is where you normally start to understand how well the movie is being received, and therefore how much movie it will make in the long run. So yes, they're freaking out because, oh my gosh, guess what? It's the 3rd highest paced thing ever to be making and selling tickets in the first 24 hours. At least according to Fandango. Like, here's the other thing too, is that the way that they're tracking this and the way that they're saying, oh my gosh, the success, is because this is coming from 2 sources in particular, from Fandango and Atom Tickets. Now, people can buy tickets from a variety of locations. There are still many people who buy their tickets directly from the theaters themselves and not by using secondary apps. So for them to try and say that they can somehow get a grasp of how much a movie can make based on these sales coming just straight from Fandango or from Atom Tickets is just lunacy. It's absolutely lunacy, and it just doesn't really work that way. I'm sorry, like, there's just really no relevance to it, especially when you look at these top 5 and you look at the fact that number 4 and number 5 have a pretty wide chasm between them as far as the entire gross of the film overall, which makes you say to yourself, okay, so obviously these numbers don't really mean a whole hell of a lot, especially since the difference between 1 and 2 is also quite big. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that okay, 1 and 2 there's a big difference, 4 and 5 there's a big difference, 2 and 4 there's a small difference. Where then does Captain Marvel stand? We'll talk about it in a second, but it does put it in a lot of danger of not reaching that $1 billion mark, which, as I've said before, when it comes to these big overhyped superhero films, $1 billion is a good indicator that a movie has been successful, but also that the film has made money, because normally when you have these films that are being just promoted to hell, which is what Captain Marvel has been doing, the $1 billion mark is kind of the least that it needs to make in order for it to be truly successful. But all that being said, time to cut through actually, all the crap and look at some actual box office numbers and see where these things stand, and just to see how true this whole 24-hour thing is. But let me start off with a caveat. Hey! Sorry, the puppies are going crazy. Let me start with a caveat saying that even though the number 1 here matches the highest grossing film overall, that does not mean that just because the film is doing well in ticket sales that it's automatically going to do well, because yes, this does mean that opening weekend is looking pretty good for it, but that is not the whole story, because movies make money over the long run, and those first 2 weeks are where we usually see around 60% or so of an entire box office take. But also, a film to make as much money as an Infinity War, for example, needs to be an event film. A film and a concept of which Captain Marvel is sorely lacking at this point in time. So let's start off with Infinity War. All right, so Infinity War made a total. Let me go ahead and just boost this up for you guys. So Infinity War in total made essentially $2.0 billion. $2 billion. I don't know why I said 2.0. Domestically made $678.8 million, $1.3 billion overseas. The reason why is because this was an event film. This was the movie of 2018, and therefore it makes a lot of sense that this film would make as much as it would. So many films were building up to this point. You had stars galore with so much staying power, and therefore you were able to sell this movie to the entire world and not just the United States. Compare that, so again, this was the number 1 film for the 24 hours, as it says right here. Number 2 film was Black Panther. Black Panther did even better domestically than Infinity War did, with $700 million. However, it did not make much of anything overseas in comparison. So again, $1.3 billion on its own overseas. Infinity War $1.3 billion in total Black Panther. And the reason why it did so much better in the United States and why it did nothing overseas in comparison is because Black Panther was able to appeal to a certain group of people that came out in droves to support it and support it multiple times. The articles themselves even point out saying this was an event film for African and African American communities in the United States. And I think that's absolutely correct. That is absolutely true. I mean, the numbers themselves speak to that very clearly, that this film did well domestically. And it's very rare, as I said, it's very rare that big budget films have this kind of split where more money is made domestically than foreign. This is one of those rare exceptions because this is a film that appealed to a certain audience that is largest here in the United States and most passionate here in the United States versus in other countries. And that's the reason why you see that huge number and that 52% to 48% difference. Black Panther, therefore, makes a lot of sense that this film did so well domestically. However, if Fandango is tracking and Adam is tracking American sales, then tell me how in the hell, so I've already shown kind of a hole in your argument that, okay, how is this then number 2, and therefore it results in how much a movie is actually going to make overall? If this was number 2, then this should be number 2 domestically, right? No, that's not how it works. So again, just because you were able to sell tickets in 24 hours does not mean that you're going to make as much money or more money than any other film. Black Panther did better domestically than Infinity War did. Infinity War, though, was able to kick serious ass overseas. Because again, it was an event film featuring a variety of different characters built up over time, and also one of the best villains ever to be put onto the silver screen. Black Panther's success came mostly from a domestic total that was supported by a strong African American community going out to support the film not just once but multiple times, and therefore booming its overall budget. And of course now it's being considered for Oscars, even though, as just looking at the numbers, the more popular film was by far Infinity War, and the better film quality-wise is without any doubt Infinity War as well. But of course that is for another time. So let's look at another film on this list. Let's look at Captain America Civil War. Civil War in total ended up making $408 million. Or rather, yeah, $408 million here in the United States and $1.1 billion overseas. So it does work out where overseas, the 1.1 for, Civil War versus 1.3 in total for Black Panther. However, there is a $400 million difference between, rather $300 million difference between the domestic totals there. And lastly, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp, which comes in at $622 million, a whole $400 million less than the movie right next to it, which was Captain America Civil War. And let's look at the domestic totals for it. It made $216 million, $200 million less. So when looking at these numbers then, when looking at how well it's doing on Fandango, how well it's doing, in Atom tickets, yes, that might give us an indication that it's going to have a good opening weekend, maybe at least in the United States. But it does not tell us how much staying power the film has. Doesn't tell us how much money the film is going to make overseas, and also how much money it's going to make, therefore, overall. Let's look at probably the best example, because they say that, oh, well, just like just like Black Panther was able to appeal to a certain audience, Captain Marvel is going to do the same thing. The problem is that Black Panther has an audience that has supported films like that consistently over time. As far as female-led movies are concerned, there really isn't a huge market for that in the same way that Black Panther has with the African-American community. Great example of that would be Wonder Woman. Yes, it did well overall. It did better domestically than it did in foreign markets. However, that does not bode well, probably because I'm thinking of Chadwick Boseman, does not bode well for Captain Marvel, because even though Wonder Woman by all means is a success because it almost made $1 billion, it made $821.8 million, and that is still nothing to snuff at, this film was not able to reach audiences overseas. And a big part of that is because there's a lot of countries overseas, namely China, which is normally a huge provider of box office sales, that is not likely going to go out to see a movie and support a movie as much as American audiences with a female lead. You may not like that. You may not think that's a good thing or that that's accurate, but let's look at the actual number for China. In China, it only made $90.4 million. Compare that with Captain America Civil War in China. This made twice as much, $180.7 million. So just from Wonder Woman alone versus Captain America, which I think are two very comparative films, seeing that, yes, Civil War did have a lot of characters in it, but it also was a Captain America film, we see that kind of difference. Let's see Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp in China made $121 million. And this is keeping in mind that that is the vast majority, or a huge chunk rather, of its overall take. 55% of its entire foreign take came from this film. Now, some people might say, oh, but there was double billing. If you look at the marketing that was done in China, you did not see nearly as much of a narrative of, oh my gosh, we have a man and a woman together, which you had in the United States. And also, this film, once again, did not make nearly as much as the other films that we're talking about here. Black Panther, just to give you an idea of some of the race issues that happens, made $105 million in China. So yes, it did well in China, but did not do nearly as well as, for example, Ant-Man and the Wasp, look at Civil War, but it did do better than Wonder Woman, which again is another example to show that even though they don't come out in droves to support characters of a different race necessarily, interestingly enough, they also are even less excited to go out and support a film like Wonder Woman. So what does this all mean? Also, let's just look to Civil War. Civil War, this made $359.5 million in China, which is 53% of the entire take for the foreign market, and again, $2 billion. So what does this actually mean then for Captain Marvel? How much is Captain Marvel going to make? We don't know. The first 24 hours are not a good indicator. If anything that I've told you right now with this article should say anything, it's that we don't know how well this is going to be. If it is close to what Black Panther did, then it might make over $1 billion. But let's say that it doesn't match up to it. Let's say that it doesn't match up even to Ant-Man and the Wasp. Then you're looking closer to $450 million, which is why my own personal range is $450 to $850 million. And that is just based off of the history of solo or new character films and how they've done initially, because individual films have not done nearly as well for Marvel as the team-ups have, which make a hell of a lot of sense. But also, too, guess what you have in this movie? You have a character that's being pushed down everyone's throats. Just look at the fact that Bob Iger himself, the head of Disney, said, fasten your seatbelts for a wild ride. I think we should build a Captain Marvel land, 50 Captain Marvel attractions, plus Captain Marvel cruise ships, hotels, restaurants, parades. Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel, Captain Marvel. The very fact that the marketing campaign for this has been so huge that it's been pushing it. I shared this on Twitter the other day. Just the other day, as soon as the tickets went live, I got a notification about the tickets going live. So, of course, it's doing well for Adam and Fandango. Because guess what? They're giving notifications out, and most people, general audiences, are saying, hey, that's a Marvel film. I might actually want to see it. But are they going to come out in droves? Are these same people that are going to be saving their money to wait for Endgame, which is going to be the event film of 2018, just like Infinity War was of 2019, just as Infinity War was of 2018? That's the question that needs to be asked. Now, am I saying that Captain Marvel is going to lose money? I'm not saying that. I think that these pre-sales, if they say anything at all, say that this film is going to make money at the box office. The question is how much. Anyone that's trying to tell you and sell you on the fact that these numbers from Fandango and Adam Tickets is showing that it's going to be a huge box office success is selling you something, because the evidence really just isn't there to support it. And as I've shown you, the only other time that we've had a huge female-led film that actually was pretty damn good, and I would say the best that the DCU has done so far. Yes, I think it's better than Aquaman, but that's a whole other story altogether too. Even this film could not succeed the way that other films did. Even this film was only able to make $90.4 million in China, which overall was 41.6, but as I just showed you with the other ones, the others were bringing in almost 50% plus of their entire grosses. And also, too, yeah, it didn't do as well in the foreign markets. Captain Marvel is not likely going to do well in the foreign markets because guess what? Just because you have a female lead doesn't mean that you're going to get half of the world's population just magically going to the theater. There needs to be something else there. Black Panther, which they're trying to compare this to as far as an event is concerned, is different because when you look to the African American community, what you see is a very tight-knit community that like to support each other. You don't see that same type of camaraderie between all women from all across the world. It just doesn't happen in the same way. So anyone that's trying to sell you on that this is going to be the same kind of event film that's going to do bonkers money here in the United States, it's just not telling you the truth. There really is no other film we can look to than Wonder Woman. And if Wonder Woman is the movie that we need to look to, and if Wonder Woman is going to be the standard that we set things by, Captain Marvel is not going to be a billion-dollar film. And if there's any indication based on how people are viewing this film, because guess what? Wonder Woman had so much positive buzz going in, during, and after. Captain Marvel has mixed buzz at best, because guess what? People are tired of identity politics. People are tired of the damn Hero trailer. People are tired of really poor-looking CGI and also a character that has no charisma. Gal Gadot had charisma. Gal Gadot was able to be and to seem like a badass character that we wanted to see and support on screen. Captain Marvel doesn't have that same character. Captain Marvel doesn't have that same ability, which is the reason why I put the film somewhere in the middle between 450 and 850 in total. What does that mean as far as the MCU is concerned, as far as how much money it makes? It's going to be up there in the top, most likely. And that's only going to be because Disney is going to market the hell out of this film. And marketing the hell out of any film, especially the way that they're doing it, is going to put butts in seats. But are they going to come back? Are they going to support it again and again and again? And is there going to be some kind of cultural movement? It didn't happen with Wonder Woman, and right now there's no evidence to suggest that it's going to happen with Captain Marvel. Seeing that if the only evidence they have is the 24-hour pre-sales, that's not enough, as hopefully I've shown. And no matter what Bob Iger or Brie Larson try to say, especially as they throw memes and, oh my gosh, could you imagine? Oh my gosh, isn't this the best meme ever? Like, oh my God, this is when this is, if anyone doesn't remember, this is at the Oscars when they were like, oh my God, equal pay for equal work. If that's the message that they're going to go with, if they're going to continue to go with this lie that women get paid 73 cents on the dollar, which again is a blatant lie, go do your own research on that. And they're going to try and push this as a female film for females, and we're going to buy out theaters for females because young female empowerment. Even though we've had female leads for 30, 40 plus years, you can go further back than that. Ripley from Alien, need you not forget. If they're going to pretend like this is some kind of new moment for women and treat this as anything else other than a Marvel film, they're going to find themselves very poorly disappointed. If even Wonder Woman, which to me didn't go that direction, even Patty Jenkins didn't really go in that direction when promoting this film, and that's the reason why I think it did so well, Captain Marvel is not going to reach the same levels. That's just my thought. Anyway, guys, what are y'all's thoughts on this? Are you excited for Captain Marvel? Oh my gosh! I just don't really see and understand why people are trying to put so much weight behind this, because yeah, it does mean something for your opening weekend total domestically. Doesn't really say much about how much it's going to make that second weekend, how much it's going to drop off. And also, we already know that this film is not going to make money down the line because it only has a month to be able to reach the level before people start actually truly thinking about Endgame. And because of that, there is a ceiling to this film. And yeah, it's going to make money. But for anyone that's trying to say that this is going to be anything gigantic and that this is going to break $1 billion and the first female-led film to break $1 billion, I'm going to say right now, my prediction, and guys, I was right when I predicted that Aquaman was going to make $1 billion, and guess what? We're a weekend away. This weekend it's going to cross that number. My prediction for Captain Marvel, it's not going to come close to $1 billion, and you can take that to the bank. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments and your thoughts down in the comments. I would really greatly appreciate it. Also, if you like this video, like it, share it, subscribe if you haven't done so. It means a lot to me. You're all amazing, beautiful people. Have a great day. And as always, God bless.